Hey everybody, it's Mariana with Three Peaks Classroom. I am a grade 3 and grade 4 teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for educators just like you. For the past few weeks, I have been making videos all about classroom behavior and time management. And recently on a video on YouTube, I had a comment left by Sandra, thank you Sandra, who wanted to know a little bit more specific if I have any tips on substitute teachers and how you would approach classroom management as a substitute teacher. So in today's video, I want to share with you some of my own personal tips from my personal days of subbing, but I also wanted to crowdsource some tips from everybody that follows me on Instagram. And so I threw out a question out there. What are some tips that you have for substitute teachers for classroom management? And I got some really awesome suggestions. So I will share all of my tips for classroom management for substitute teachers in today's video. I'm going to share right off the bat that I haven't subbed since my first year of teaching, and I only have a few months of subbing experience under my belt before I found my full-time teaching position. And so I haven't subbed since then. And that is why I crowdsourced some more tips so that my tips are a little bit more current and up to date. So if you watched my top 5 behavior management strategies tips video, you'll know that the number one tip I suggest for developing and maintaining classroom management is to nurture a relationship with each and every one of your students. That's not really applicable to subbing. Well, sort of. As a sub, you're going to need to establish some sort of a base relationship with each student. In the event that you come back and the teacher liked you a lot and the kids liked you a lot, in the event that they'll ask you to come back as a sub, you'll have that base relationship. But just because you're a substitute teacher doesn't mean that you can't make an effort to get to know these kids. So from my own experience, my first tip is when you are walking into a classroom as a substitute teacher and you want to develop those relationships, the one game that I love to play with each one of my classes when I was subbing was to play a game called Would You Rather. Not only does this game burn some energy from those kids at the start of the day, but they also will tell you a little bit about themselves. And so you would, ask a question like, would you rather have hot dogs for the rest of your life and only hot dogs? Or would you rather only have, pizza or whatever? And the kids would have to physically get up from their desks or their spots, and they would have to move to that side of the classroom. And that tells you a little bit about that student. But I also like to play myself because in that way they get to know a little bit about me as well. My second tip from my own personal experience is to bring in some form of currency into your class. In a video that I shared, my top behavior management tip that I wish I had learned earlier, I learned that students are all motivated to do something by either money or pleasure. And so you can bring in something like money, like, star dollars or whatever. I actually have currency in my class that I tell my sub she can use to hand out. Or you can bring in something that's pleasurable, and I'll get to that in a minute. Just in case a teacher doesn't have a classroom economy or a classroom currency system set up, you will want to bring in your own item that you can hand out to students to reward and recognize the positive, helpful behavior. Now, this idea of bringing in your own classroom currency was also used by another beloved sub, according to my colleague, Tasha. Tasha says that the district that she works for, this one sub was very highly sought after because of her classroom management ways. And what she would do is really unique. She would bring in a decorated coffee tin with empty tickets. And every time that she saw a student do something really good effort, or helping another student, or just general good citizenship, she would allow them to write their name on a ticket and they could put it into the coffee can. And then at the end of the class, they would draw a name or multiple names for a reward. Now, depending on what the reward is that day, Tasha said that she saw things like 20 minutes at the end of the day where they got to do comedy hour and all the kids got to come up and share funny jokes with the rest of the class. Or other times they got to pick, a little chocolate or a lollipop or something like that. But the reward was always different because she would sub multiple times in different people's classes. Tasha also writes that the kids would often ask if and when that sub was coming back because they really enjoyed having her in their class. The last thing Natasha said also was that this teacher was very relationship focused. And so she would try hard to remember little mundane pieces of information about students like, oh, I remember last week you told me that your hamster ate off your plate for breakfast or whatever. And so there's that relationship piece again that I had mentioned. Even if you are a substitute teacher, it doesn't hurt to try and establish those relationships because you never know when you will be invited back to sub in that class again. All right, like I mentioned, I crowdsourced some more tips from other substitute teachers who are currently subbing either full-time or part-time, or maybe they used to sub full-time. And the number one classroom management strategy that hands down most people have sent me was to learn the kids' names quickly. Whatever strategy you choose on how to learn those names, just do your best to try and learn their names as quickly as possible. Whether you say their name and repeat their name often or have them say their name before they answer, whatever you choose, learn those names. The second most suggested tip for classroom management for substitute teachers is to always have 2 or 3 back pocket activities just in case technology fails or you get through the plans super quickly, or if you have some time to kill, just have an activity ready to go. I like to bring a book with me. I like to have a game ready to go. And I like to have some questions prepared for a discussion because, just having a quick little discussion with the students is a really fast way to fill time, but as long as you're prepared for it. Now, a third suggested tip on Instagram was pretty cool, and that was to have your own fun signal classroom attention getter. Now, in my class, I like to use my star wand. And when I subbed, I actually brought the star wand with me, and I want to show you what this sounds like. Ready? I'm not sure how that translates to the microphone, but it's actually quite pleasant to hear because it's such a high pitch, but it's not annoying. And so I like to use it in my class or subbing as well. If you don't have a physical item that you can bring with you, then I'm going to teach you a little trick that I do in my class all the time that works wonders. And it goes like this. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap 6 times. Soon, the kids will realize, hey, people are clapping. How do I know when to clap? And then they'll quiet down and they'll hear me say it. And then just for fun, I'll say, okay, if you can hear my voice, clap 12 times. And then they're going, right? And as a joke, I like to go, oh, you're too kind. Thank you for the applause. Hold the applause. And the kids start laughing. It only works one time because after that, it's not funny to anybody. But the first time it works and it's a charm and it's fun. All right. And the last tip that was suggested by multiple teachers on Instagram was to make sure that you go over those rules and expectations that might be posted on the classroom wall, or just have a discussion with the kids, like what is expected, what are the rules here, how should we be behaving? Just having that review of those expectations will help you a long way. It also lets the kids know that you are on the same page as the classroom teacher, that you guys expect the same from the teacher, from the students, from everybody in the room. You can also add that when you're talking about expectations, you are going to be writing down the names of students that were the most helpful in your sub notes back to the teacher. And however the teacher decides to reward them, they will know that these group of kids or whoever were the most helpful to you as a substitute teacher. Before I wrap up the episode, I also want to read just a few singular suggestions that were given to me by the teachers that follow me on Instagram. And I asked them, if you could give any substitute teacher one piece of advice, what would you say to them? And here's the responses that I got. Don't sweat the small stuff and communicate with the homeroom teacher with notes. Make sure you leave very detailed notes. Francesca says, absolutely do it. Sub. It's great, wonderful experience. Plus it makes you learn how to manage a classroom a lot faster. Have a reward for them at the end of the day, something that they might want to work towards. Don't take things personally. And always bring your favorite book with you. It's a great time filler. And just for fun, I had my followers share any cringy moments that they might have experienced or heard of from their days as a sub. And so these ones are hilarious. My friend Brianne said that she had a student throw a chair at her because the student didn't like her shoes. And Rachel with Read to 3, she said she was pregnant with her twins and she threw up in front of the whole class and principal. Oh my gosh, Rachel. And Bethany wrote that one time, this one's not cringy, but Bethany wrote that one time she had a substitute teacher who left a little gift on her desk with a thank you note. Like, how sweet is that? All right, my final words of advice to any of you who are considering subbing or who are subbing right now and are finding it difficult is I would encourage you to find any moment in the day where you can compliment the students or the class as a whole. I know when I came in subbing, I would often say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that I'm here because Mrs. Teacher, like your teacher, was raving about you guys and she said I need to come in and experience it. So I'm so glad she called me and I'm so glad that I get to spend the day with you guys. And I would say something like, oh, we're going to have such a good day. We're going to get some work done, but we're also going to sprinkle in some fun activities too. So I'm so excited to spend the day with you. Awesome. I hope you loved all of those tips for you substitute teachers on how to manage your class, but just in general, just subbing advice. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing because I have a lot more videos in the works coming. I post a new video every Sunday. And if you want to join in on my Instagram conversations, you can join my Instagram at 3 Peaks Classroom. I would love to hear from you. Thank you everybody for watching this video, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Bye.